Welcome to the official podcast series by POTENZA, where innovation meets insight. In this series, we dive deep into the world of SAP, explore the power of robotic process automation, and unlock the true potential of data analytics. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just curious about the digital transformation shaping our world, you're in the right place. Tune in, stay curious, and let's explore the future of enterprise technology together. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube for more powerful insights. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Today we're going to do a little bit of time travel.
Oh, I love time travel. Where are we going?
Well, I want you, and by you I mean everyone listening too, unless you're driving, of course. I want you to close your eyes and picture a corporate boardroom in, let's say, 1995.
Okay. I am imagining a lot of beige.
So much beige.
Yeah.
A lot of pleated slacks, maybe a thick cloud of cigarette smoke, depending on what country you're in.
Definitely.
But more importantly, think about the table. It's this massive mahogany thing, and seated around it are executives making decisions that involve, millions of dollars. But the scary part is
what they're actually looking at.
Exactly. What are they actually looking at to make those massive decisions?
In 1995, usually they were looking at a stack of green bar computer paper about 3 inches thick.
Right. And where did that paper come from? I mean, it wasn't magic.
No, definitely not magic.
It came from some poor analyst, let's just call him Dave, who's spent the last 3 weeks manually typing numbers from one system into a giant spreadsheet.
Printing it out.
And just praying to the tech gods he didn't make a typo anywhere in those thousands of rows.
And here is the truly terrifying reality that the source material for today highlights.
Yeah.
Half the time, the decision wasn't even based on that 3-inch stack of paper anyway. It was based on gut instinct.
Yes. That phrase stuck out to me so much in the reading. Gut instinct dressed up as strategy.
It's a great line.
It sounds super confident, but it's really just guessing, isn't it?
Well, ideally, it's an educated guess. But yes, at the end of the day, it's a guess. And that is really the starting point of our whole story today.
Because we aren't just looking at the history of software.
No, we're looking at the evolution of business intelligence, or BI, as it's usually called.
And to be clear right up front, this is not some dry tech history lesson.
Not at all.
This is a survival story. We're tracing how companies went from that smoke-filled room of guessing games to having artificial intelligence literally tell them exactly what to do with the click of a button.
Because the stakes really couldn't be higher. In all the sources we've analyzed for this deep dive, the consensus is totally clear.
Yeah.
In a world where margins are just razor thin and competitors move instantly, the difference between the companies that survive and the ones that fail is often just...
Data.
Exactly.
Just data.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to walk through this journey. We are going to go from Excel hell to the AI revolution.
It's quite a ride.
It is. And we've broken this down into 5 distinct stages so we can see exactly how we got here chronologically.
Let's start back in those dark ages then.
Stage 1. The dark ages. The source material politely calls this the manual reporting era, but let's be honest.
Dark ages feels a lot more appropriate.
Yeah, given the sheer pain involved.
It really was painful. I mean, this is the era before dedicated BI software really even existed as we know it today.
So paint the picture for us. Aside from the bad 90s fashion, what did the daily grind actually look like for a business trying to just, understand its own numbers?
Well, the defining characteristic of this era was silos.
Exactly.
Yeah. Imagine you're a CEO and you ask a really simple question, like, are we profitable this quarter?
Seems basic enough.
Right. So you ask the finance department, and they give you one number.
Okay.
Then you ask sales, and they give you a totally different number. And operations comes back with a third completely different number.
Because they're all using different systems that don't talk to each other.
Exactly.
Like sales is looking at bookings, finance is looking at invoices that actually cleared. It's like the Tower of Babel.
That's it exactly. They are speaking completely different languages. So, to get a straight answer, you have human beings acting as the bridge.
Enter Dave the analyst.
Enter Dave. You have analysts extracting figures from one screen, literally typing them into spreadsheets on another screen, and trying to mash it all together to make sense of it.
The source mentioned that this led to what they called compounding risk.
Yes.
Which honestly just sounds like a very polite corporate way of saying a giant mess.
It was a giant mess, and it was a mess for 3 specific reasons. First, the silos we just talked about. There was no single source of truth anywhere in the building. Second was human error.
Oh, yeah.
If you have someone manually entering thousands of rows of data day after day, they will make a mistake. It's not an if, it's a when.
A formula error, a missed zero.
Exactly, a typo. And suddenly, that whole report the board is basing your strategy on, it's completely wrong.
And the third reason, which I think is probably the most painful part of all of this, is the lag.
Oh, the lag was an absolute killer. A standard report might take 3 weeks to compile.
3 weeks. I mean, in today's market, you could literally be out of business in 3 weeks.
Precisely. By the time you actually finish the report and hand it to the boss, the data is already a month old.
Right.
It's historical record keeping at that point. It's not intelligence. You aren't seeing what's happening in your business. You're just seeing what happened a month ago.
It's like trying to drive a car down the highway at 70 miles an hour by only looking in the rearview mirror.
That is a perfect analogy. And if you wanted to ask a follow-up question in that boardroom,
Forget about it.
good luck. You were totally dependent on the IT department. You couldn't just drill down into the numbers yourself.
You had to, what, submit a ticket?
Yeah, submit a formal request to IT, wait for them to write a custom database query, and maybe get your answer a week later.
So in summary, it was slow, inaccurate, and deeply painful.
Very much so.
Which naturally brings us to stage 2. The industry finally realizes, okay, we cannot keep doing this.
We need a better way.
Right. Enter the era of warehouses inconsistency. This kicks in around the late 80s and 90s.
And this was the first really big leap forward. We saw the introduction of data warehouses in a process called ETL.
ETL, extract, transform, load. I always think that sounds like a gym routine, honestly.
I'm going to go do some ETLs.
Exactly. I'm hitting the ETLs today.
It does sound like that, but it's actually a really elegant solution to the exact mess we just described.
Okay, break it down for us.
Think of the Dark Ages as a giant library where all the books are just thrown in a massive pile in the middle of the room.
Total chaos.
Total chaos. ETL is the librarian.
Okay, I like this. Walk me through what the librarian does.
So the ETL process first extracts the books or the data from all those messy different sources around the company.
The sales systems, the finance systems.
Right. Then it transforms them, meaning it cleans them up, formats them, translates them all into one standard language.
So everything matches.
Exactly. And finally, it loads them onto neat, highly organized shelves inside the data warehouse.
That is a great analogy. So now, instead of sales speaking French and finance speaking German, everybody is speaking the same language.
Precisely. It acts as a universal translator. For the first time ever, a CEO could ask cross-functional questions without needing a whole team of people to dig through physical filing cabinets for a month.
You could compare sales numbers against warehouse inventory instantly.
Because they were finally living in the same library.
And this is where we start seeing the birth of executive dashboards, right?
Yes, the classic dashboard.
Instead of a dense printed table of numbers that makes your eyes cross, you actually get visual bar charts, trend lines, scorecards.
You do. But honestly, the pretty charts were just the icing.
What was the cake?
The cake was standardization. This is the era where the concept of the single source of truth really takes over.
I want to pause on that exact phrase for a second because it comes up a lot in business literature, but I feel like we just sort of glaze over it.
It's become a bit of a buzzword.
Yeah, single source of truth. Why was that such a massive game changer for these companies?
Because it completely changes the politics of the boardroom.
How so?
Well, before this, executives spent the first hour of every single meeting just arguing about whose numbers were right.
Oh, sure.
You'd have the VP of sales saying, my spreadsheet says we're up 10%, and the CFO says, well, my spreadsheet says we're down 5%.
Right, so the meeting just becomes a battle of egos rather than a discussion about facts.
Exactly, it's defensive. But with a centralized data warehouse, everyone is forced to look at the exact same dashboard. You stop arguing about the data itself, and you finally start arguing about the strategy.
It removes the ego from the math. That sounds like just basic sanity to us now, looking back. But at the time, that must have felt totally revolutionary.
It changed everything. And the automation part of it freed up the analysts, too.
Dave gets his life back.
Dave gets to actually do his job. Instead of spending 90% of their time just gathering and typing data, analysts could spend their time actually analyzing it.
Okay, so we've got a central warehouse, we've got nice charts, we've got a single truth. Sounds like a perfect system.
It wasn't.
Clearly it wasn't, because we had to move to stage 3. So what was the big flaw with the warehouse era?
The big flaw was the gatekeeper.
Let me guess. IT again.
IT again. Even though the data was beautifully organized now, building a new report still required serious technical skills.
Right, you had to know how to code.
Yeah, usually SQL. So if a marketing manager wanted to see a highly specific slice of data, say, show me sales in Ohio for just the blue widgets on Tuesdays, they couldn't just click a button and do it themselves.
They still had to ask IT.
They had to ask IT.
So the bottleneck didn't really go away. You built this beautiful library, but the front door is locked, and only the IT librarian has the key to get in.
That's exactly it. And that frustration leads directly to stage 3, which the sources call power to the people, or more technically, self-service BI.
This feels like the moment the Berlin Wall of corporate data comes down.
That is a very dramatic way to put it, but yes, essentially. This was a major philosophical shift just as much as a technological one.
Also,
The idea was simply this. Why on earth does a marketing manager need to know how to code database queries just to see how their own ad campaign is performing?
they shouldn't have to.
Right. So new tools started hitting the market that were...
What, like drag and drop interfaces?
Exactly. Highly intuitive graphical interfaces. Suddenly, normal business users in finance, ops, marketing, they could build their own custom charts using tools like Tableau or Power BI.
No coding required.
None. You just drag the word sales onto the screen and boom, there's your chart.
Now, I had to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
I'm listening to this and thinking, okay, if you suddenly let everyone in the company build their own custom charts, don't you risk sliding right back into the total chaos of stage 1?
Oh, absolutely.
Doesn't self-service basically just mean everyone goes back to making up their own version of the truth again?
That is the massive risk of this era, and you are spot on. In the industry, it's called shadow IT.
Shadow IT sounds sinister.
It is for a data manager, because if you aren't careful, you end up with 1,000 different conflicting reports floating around the company and zero governance. People just end up exporting everything back into Excel anyway.
So how did companies solve that? Or did they just live with the chaos?
They had to solve it, but it required a huge culture shift. Not just buying new software, you need what are called governed self-service.
Governed self-service.
Right. Basically, IT creates a sandbox. They curate the approved, clean datasets, and then the business users get to play freely inside that sandbox.
Ah, I see. So you can build whatever kind of sandcastle you want, but you are strictly required to use the approved sand.
That's exactly how it works. And when a company actually gets that balance right, it creates this incredible data culture.
Meaning what, practically?
People start asking way better questions because they can actually test a hypothesis in real time. If you have an idea in a meeting, you can pull up the data and check it right there.
You don't have to wait a week for IT.
Exactly. We went from insight taking days or weeks to insight taking minutes. It was the true democratization of data.
I really love that concept. Everyone finally gets a seat at the table. But as companies started scaling this up and everyone's pulling data constantly, they hit a physical wall, didn't they?
A very hard physical wall, yes.
Because even with this cool drag and drop software, you still needed a physical place to run it all.
Right. For a long time, all of this heavy enterprise software lived on-premise.
Which perfectly transitions us to stage 4. Breaking the physical limits, also known as the cloud.
Right. To run all this heavy BI software in the past, companies used to have to buy their own physical servers.
Big metal boxes.
Big metal boxes. They had to keep them in a dedicated air-conditioned room, pay specialized people to maintain them, and physically upgrade them every 3 to 5 years.
And that is intensely expensive. That's a capital expenditure.
Right. It's a massive upfront check you have to write. And worse than the cost, it's incredibly inflexible.
Give me an example of the inflexibility.
Imagine you are a big online retailer. On Black Friday, your data usage and website traffic might spike by 1,000%.
Naturally.
If you are running an on-premise server room, your servers might literally crash under the load unless you preemptively bought enough physical hardware just to handle that one single day.
Hardware which then just sits completely idle for the other 364 days of the year.
Exactly.
It's like buying a 50-bedroom mansion just because you host one really big family reunion once a year.
That is a fantastic comparison. It makes zero financial sense.
Not at all.
But moving to the cloud completely changed the financial model for businesses. We moved from buying servers to essentially renting space on someone else's servers.
Like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure.
Right. So it shifts from a CapEx to an operational expenditure. You only pay for what you actually use, almost like a utility bill for water or electricity.
And the source material used a really specific word for this that stood out to me. Elastic.
Elasticity is the absolute key to the cloud. In a cloud environment, if you have a huge spike in traffic on Black Friday, The system just automatically stretches to handle it.
It provisions more space on the fly.
Right. You pay a little more for that extra capacity for that one day, and then the next day it just scales right back down.
That is huge for a company's bottom line. But I assume this cloud shift also practically saved the business world during the whole work-from-home revolution, right?
It was absolutely essential. I mean, you can access cloud-based dashboards from anywhere in the world.
Right. The office, your living room, a
Yeah.
random coffee shop.
Exactly. In the modern hybrid work era, you simply cannot have your critical data locked away in a basement server room at headquarters. People need it everywhere.
And integration gets way easier too, doesn't it? The cloud just plays nice with other cloud tools.
That's a huge point. You get native instant connections to your CRM like Salesforce, your marketing tools, your accounting software. It creates this totally seamless, connected ecosystem.
Okay, so let's recap where we are. We've liberated the data from silos. We've given the power to build charts to the actual business users, and we've moved the whole infrastructure up to the cloud.
We've come a long way from Dave typing in a spreadsheet.
We really have.
Yeah.
So what is even left to improve at this point? Well, apparently we needed it all to be way faster.
Speed and intelligence. That is what brings us to stage 5, which the sources call the now, real-time and AI.
Now, I feel like real-time is one of those buzzwords we hear constantly in tech marketing.
Oh, definitely.
But does it actually matter for most businesses? I mean, does a CEO really truly need to know their sales numbers down to the literal second? Isn't that just anxiety-inducing?
It really depends on the type of business you're running. Think about it this way. Back in the data warehouse days we talked about, you usually refreshed your data in bulk once a night.
The nightly batch job.
Right. So if you looked at your executive dashboard at 4 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, you were actually seeing data from Monday.
Still somewhat retrospective.
Right. But modern BI uses streaming data. It connects directly to live operational systems.
Okay, so why does that matter?
Well, if you're running a global logistics and shipping company, knowing that a delivery truck broke down yesterday is totally useless to you.
Because the customer is already angry.
Exactly. But knowing that truck broke down 5 minutes ago, that allows you to immediately reroute a different shipment, proactively call the client, and actually save that relationship.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
It takes the dashboard and turns it from a history book into an active mission control center.
An active, live, operational instrument. That's a great way to put it. And then on top of that speed, you add the robots.
The AI integration. Now, this is where it starts to get a little sci-fi for me. And again, I have to be skeptical. Is this AI stuff in BI just chat GPT for numbers? Or is it actually doing something fundamentally useful for a business?
It is genuinely doing things that human beings simply cannot do. It's really all about pattern detection.
Okay, explain that.
Humans are great at spotting really obvious macro trends like, oh, look, our winter coat sales are up in November.
Right. Pretty intuitive.
But an AI can look at tens of millions of distinct data points simultaneously and find the absolute needle in the haystack.
Give me a concrete example from the real world.
Okay, let's say you run a massive manufacturing company. An AI model analyzing your streaming data might suddenly spot that every single time the ambient temperature in factory B goes up by exactly 2 degrees, the micro defect rate on the assembly line increases by 0.5%, but only 3 days later.
Wow. No human analyst would ever catch that kind of delayed correlation.
There's just way too much noise in the data for a human to see it. It's too subtle. But the AI sees it instantly, and then it sends a smart alert directly to the plant manager's phone.
Saying what?
Just saying, hey, check the HVAC system in Factory B immediately. It's automated anomaly detection.
That is incredible. And the source material also spent a lot of time talking about natural language processing.
Yes.
Is that basically, explain it to me like I'm 5 feature.
That's essentially exactly what it is. You can be looking at an incredibly complex scatter plot, and the software will literally just generate a plain English summary sentence for you on the screen.
Like revenues down because of a supply chain bottleneck in the Southeast region?
Exactly. It completely lowers the barrier to entry even further. You don't even need to know how to read the chart anymore. The machine just tells you what the chart means.
And embedded analytics. That was another big term that popped up in this section.
That's a huge trend right now. It just means the data actively comes to you right where you work.
Instead of you going to the data.
Right. You don't have to stop what you're doing and log into a totally separate BI portal. The specific charts and insights you need are embedded directly into the CRM or the accounting software you already use all day long.
So to zoom out for a second, we have gone from Dave printing 3-week-old paper reports to an AI literally whispering in our ear in real time inside the apps we already use.
Yeah, it is a massive, massive journey.
It is. But I want to pause here and talk about the actual impact of all this.
Okay.
Because, cool tech is cool. We love talking about tech. But how does this actually change how a business leader leads their company?
Well, the source material highlights 3 really big shifts in modern leadership because of this tech.
Let's go through them.
The first is the fundamental move from being reactive to being proactive.
Right. Instead of doing a grim autopsy on a quarter that already failed, you're looking at live alerts and steering the ship away from the iceberg while you can actually still see it.
Exactly. The second major shift is alignment. And this really goes back to that single source of truth we talked about earlier.
How does that create alignment?
When everyone in the entire company has shared visible KPIs, key performance indicators, you can trace everything. You can clearly see how a tiny tactical decision in the marketing department instantly ripples through to warehouse inventory and ultimately impacts finance.
It creates a totally unified framework for the whole company.
It does. Everyone is pulling in the same direction. And the third shift, which can sometimes be a bit uncomfortable for people, is accountability.
Oh, nobody likes accountability.
Right. But data-driven leadership means you can finally objectively challenge assumptions. If a middle manager sits in a meeting and says, well, I just feel like this new social media strategy is really working for us.
The boss can just say, show me the data.
Exactly. Prove it. It's not personal anymore. It's strictly evidence-based.
It completely validates or disproves hypotheses.
And in today's highly competitive markets, this level of rigor isn't just a bonus anymore. It is a baseline expectation from boards and investors. You simply cannot just wing it anymore.
So if everything we just talked about is the now, what is the next?
The future.
Yeah, the source had a whole section on the future of BI that, frankly, sounded a little intimidating to me.
It is incredibly exciting, though, if you embrace it. The first big trend coming down the pipeline is augmented analytics.
Augmented analytics. Meaning what?
This is all about AI taking over the boring stuff.
The ETLs.
Exactly. Cleaning the data, prepping the data, flagging errors. The AI does the heavy lifting so the human analysts can focus purely on high-level strategy.
See, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Less grunt work is always a win in my book.
Sure.
But the second trend they mentioned, prescriptive analytics. That sounded a bit intense.
This is the ultimate game changer right here. Think about the progression this way. Descriptive analytics tells you what happened in the past.
Okay.
Predictive analytics tells you what will probably happen in the future.
Right, forecasting.
But prescriptive analytics, that actually tells you what you should do about it.
So the software isn't just giving you a heads up saying, hey, sales are going to drop next month.
No, it's going way further. It's saying sales are going to drop next month unless you lower the price of item X by 5% and simultaneously increase your ad spend in the Midwest region by $10,000.
Wow.
It explicitly recommends specific, complex business actions based on probability and historical modeling.
That feels like a really fine line to walk. I mean, the software is essentially giving orders to the CEO. Are executives actually comfortable with that?
Well, it's giving recommendations, not orders. You have to remember they are highly data-backed recommendations. It's essentially like having the smartest, fastest management consultant in the entire world sitting permanently inside your laptop.
But as a human, you still have to be the one to decide to push the execute button.
For now.
Huh. For now. That is incredibly ominous.
Just a little bit.
Okay, moving on before I get too paranoid. There was also a mention of conversational BI.
Right. This is already starting to roll out. It's literally just talking to your data.
Like out loud.
Yeah, or typing in a chat box. Just asking a plain English question like, hey, why was revenue down in Q3 compared to last time? And the system instantly generates a custom visual chart and a written answer for you. No clicking, no dragging, no dropping required.
It's like having a Siri or an Alexa, but entirely dedicated to your proprietary business metrics.
Exactly. And finally, the last big future trend is data storytelling.
Storytelling? That sounds almost like an art form, not a tech feature.
It really is a blend of both. As business data gets infinitely more complex, the human ability to actually explain it to other humans becomes way more important.
Right. Context matters.
Context is everything. It's not enough to just flash a complicated chart on a screen anymore. You have to construct a narrative around it to persuade your audience. And modern BI tools are increasingly building in features to help users construct those actual narratives.
It is so funny to me. We started this whole journey talking about people manually typing raw numbers into green bar paper. And we're ending the journey talking about software that can literally tell us a narrative story about what we should do next.
It is a complete and total inversion of the traditional relationship between human beings and data.
What do you mean by an inversion?
Well, historically, we used to serve the data.
Right?
We spent all our time typing it, cleaning it, organizing it, storing it. We worked for the data. But now, the data works for us. It serves us.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. So let's wrap this up for everyone listening. We've traced the entire arc today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We went from passive historical record keeping all the way to active, predictive, strategic capability.
That is the main headline here. BI is just not a passive reporting tool anymore. It is an active, vital participant in actually running the company day to day.
But there is a pretty stark warning in the source material, too, as we wrap up.
Yes, the gap.
The divide between the companies actually using these advanced tools effectively and the companies still stubbornly relying on gut intuition.
That gap is getting wider every single day.
And in a really tight competitive market, you absolutely do not want to be caught on the wrong side of that gap.
The irony is, it is genuinely easier than ever to close that gap. The cloud tools are so good now, the interfaces are so intuitive, the barriers to entry are lower than they have ever been in history.
But you still have to take the leap.
You have to act. You have to actually invest in building that data culture inside your team. The software won't fix a broken culture.
It leaves me with one really big question, though, and I want to leave everyone listening with this thought to mull over.
What's the question?
If the software fully moves into prescriptive analytics, if the AI genuinely starts accurately telling us exactly what business moves to make, how does the core role of the human leader actually change?
That really is the million-dollar question for the next decade.
Right. I mean, are we eventually going to move from being actual decision makers to just becoming decision auditors? Are we just going to be sitting in a boardroom to sign off on whatever the AI recommends?
It is a fascinating and maybe slightly scary thought. I mean, maybe our primary job just becomes checking the AI's homework rather than doing the actual strategic work ourselves.
Right.
Or, on a more positive note, maybe the human element becomes purely about ethics, empathy, and long-term vision. You know, the fundamentally human things that the data simply can't measure.
I really like that optimistic take. It's definitely something for all of you to mull over while you're staring at your next executive dashboard. But I think that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the evolution of BI. Thanks so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure. See you next time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the POTENZA podcast series, where we decode SAP, automate with RPA, and analyze with precision. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the technologies transforming tomorrow's enterprise. Got questions or ideas for a future episode? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time. Thank you.